The transit hub on Kelvar Station was supposed to be safe. That was the first lie I believed that day. My name is Thrace, and I work security for the Galactic Commerce Authority. 17 cycles of service, 3 commendations, 0 incidents requiring lethal force. I pride myself on that record. I keep the peace, I de-escalate conflicts, and I go home at the end of every shift with a clean conscience. At least, that is what I used to do. It started during third rotation when the human transport vessel docked. Nothing unusual about that. Humans had been part of the galactic community for about 5 standard years now, and they showed up regularly enough. Mostly traders, scientists, the occasional tourist who wanted to see what a real multi-species station looked like. They were generally polite, if a bit loud, and they tipped well in the cantinas. The only real problem was their tendency to pet things that should not be petted. Last month, I had to rescue one from trying to befriend a Corthian sand lizard. The human seemed genuinely confused when I explained that the creature was venomous enough to drop a Vrexian in under 3 minutes. But this particular transport was different. It carried a mix of human civilians, maybe 20 or 30 of them, all heading to various destinations across this sector. Among them was a young female, probably in her early 20s by human standards, traveling alone. I noticed her because she kept to herself, sitting in one of the waiting areas with a worn canvas bag clutched in her lap. She had dark hair pulled back in a simple tail, olive skin, and eyes that seemed to take in everything around her with quiet intensity. She wore practical clothing, nothing fancy, just pants and a jacket that had seen better days. She looked vulnerable. That was the second lie. The third lie came in the form of Kretch, a Verulian bounty hunter with a reputation for skirting legal boundaries. Verulians are massive creatures, easily 3 meters tall when fully extended, with 4 arms and exoskeletons that could shrug off most small arms fire. Their faces, if you could call them that, consisted of mandibles surrounding a complex mouth structure, with sensory stalks where eyes should be. They were apex predators on their home world, and many of them never quite adjusted to civilized society. Kretch had been flagged in our system as a person of interest. Nothing concrete enough to deny him entry, but enough that we kept sensors on him whenever he passed through. He dealt in sentient retrieval, which was the polite term for tracking down people who did not want to be found. Sometimes it was legal, sometimes it was not. We could never prove which. I was reviewing the daily logs when my partner, a Zentari named Quilix, chirped an alert through our shared comm channel. Quilix looked like what humans might describe as a bipedal cricket, all chitin and compound eyes, with a nervous disposition that made him excellent at spotting trouble before it started. Thrace, we have a situation developing in Section 7. That Verulian, Kretch, he is moving toward the human waiting area. His body language is reading aggressive. I pulled up the security feed on my wrist display. Sure enough, Kretch was walking with purpose, his 4 arms flexed in a way that suggested he was preparing for confrontation. Behind him, 2 smaller figures followed. Graken mercenaries, probably hired muscle. They were reptilian, quick, and mean, the kind of species that enjoyed violence a bit too much for my taste. Acknowledged. I am heading there now. Alert Station Command and have medical on standby. You think it will get that bad? With Kretch? Always assume the worst. I moved quickly through the corridors, my uniform and badge clearing a path through the usual station traffic. The transit hub was busy this cycle, with dozens of species mixing in the common areas. Traders haggled over prices. Families waited for connecting flights, and the constant hum of translation devices created a background noise that most of us had learned to filter out. When I reached Section 7, I could see the situation unfolding. Kretsch stood in front of the human female, his sensory stalks extended forward in what I recognized as a threatening posture. The two Graken had fanned out to either side, cutting off easy escape routes. Other travelers were backing away, creating a wide circle around the confrontation. Nobody wanted to get involved. That was typical. In a place like this, most people just wanted to reach their destinations without complications. The human female had stood up from her seat. She held her bag in front of her like a shield, and her face had gone pale, but she had not run. Interesting. Kretsch's voice boomed through his translator, loud enough for half the section to hear. "You are Maya Reeves. There is a contract on your retrieval. You will come with me now, and this will be simple. Resist, and it will be complicated. For you." So, a retrieval job. That explained the muscle. I keyed my comm to broadcast on the open security channel, making sure my voice carried authority. "This is station security. Kretsch, you know the rules. No private enforcement actions on this station. Stand down immediately." Kretsch's sensory stalks swiveled toward me, but he did not move away from the human. "This does not concern you, security officer. I have a legal contract registered with the Bounty Commission. The human is wanted for breach of corporate agreement. She will be retrieved." The human, Maya, finally spoke. Her voice was quiet but steady. "The contract was illegal. They were trafficking people. I escaped. I reported them. They want me dead, not returned." Well, that complicated things. I moved closer, keeping my posture non-threatening, but positioning myself between Kretsch and the human. If there is a legal dispute, it will be handled through proper channels. You cannot simply grab someone in a public station. If she contests the retrieval, there has to be a hearing. One of the Graken hissed, his clawed hand moving toward a weapon at his belt. "We are done talking. Move aside, or you will be moved." You know, in all my cycles of security work, I have learned that there are moments when a situation can still be saved, and moments when violence becomes inevitable. The trick is recognizing which is which. The way that Graken's hand moved, the way Kretsch's mandibles spread in what passed for a smile among his species, the way the second Graken shifted his weight onto his toes, all of it told me we had crossed from negotiation into combat. I reached for my sidearm, a standard-issue neural disruptor, effective against most species without causing permanent damage. Last warning, stand down, all of you, or I will classify this as an attempted kidnapping and respond with appropriate force. Kretsch laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding in a metal tube. "You are one officer, we are three, and you will not risk harming bystanders with your weapon. Move, or be broken." He had a point about the bystanders, damn him. The area was still crowded, and neural disruptors had a wide dispersal pattern in enclosed spaces. I could not fire without risking civilian casualties. Kretsch knew it. He was counting on it. That was when Maya Reeves decided she was done being the prey. She moved so fast that I almost missed it. One moment, she was standing there, clutching her bag, looking like a frightened civilian. The next moment, the bag was flying through the air toward the nearest Graken's face, and Maya was dropping low, sweeping her leg out in a move that sent Kretsch stumbling backward. She rolled, came up with something in her hand, a small cylinder, and pressed it against the second Graken's torso. There was a sharp crackling sound, and the mercenary convulsed before dropping. A stun device. She had been carrying a concealed stun device. The first Graken recovered from the bag strike and lunged at her with claws extended. Maya sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and used his own momentum to flip him over her hip. He crashed into a seating area with a satisfying crunch. She spun, dropped into a crouch, and faced Kretsch with her stun device held ready. Her eyes were no longer frightened. They were calculating. Cold. Kretsch roared and charged. 4 arms reached for her, mandibles spread wide enough to take her head off in one bite. He was fast for something his size, covering the distance in 2 massive bounds. Maya waited until the last possible second, then threw herself sideways into a roll. Kretsch's momentum carried him past her, and she came up behind him, jamming the stun device into the gap where his exoskeleton joints met at the base of his neck. The discharge was massive, enough to light up his entire nervous system. Verulians are tough, resistant to most forms of attack, but neural disruption works on everyone. Kretsch went down like a falling cargo container, shaking the floor when he hit. The entire fight lasted maybe 10 seconds. Maya stood there, breathing hard, stun device still active in her hand. Around us, the crowd that had backed away was now staring in complete silence. I realized my hand was still on my holstered weapon, which I had not even drawn. I had not needed to. The human had handled it herself. Quilix's voice chirped in my ear, shrill with panic. "Thrace! What happened? Sensors are showing multiple unconscious targets. Do you need backup?" "Backup would be good, yes. Also, bring restraints, heavy ones, and maybe someone who can explain to me what the hell just happened." I approached Maya slowly, hands visible and non-threatening. "Miss Reeves, I am going to need you to deactivate that weapon and come with me. You are not under arrest, but we need to talk. Immediately." She looked at me for a long moment, then at Kretsch's twitching form, then back at me. Slowly she powered down the stun device and held it out, grip first. I took it carefully, noting that it was a military-grade model, well-maintained, definitely not standard civilian equipment. "I didn't want that to happen," she said quietly, "but they weren't going to stop. And I couldn't. I couldn't go back there." "Back where?" "The ship, the one I escaped from. They take people. Humans, mostly, because we are new to the galactic community, and nobody tracks us closely yet. They promise jobs, good pay, legitimate work. Then they get you on their ship, and the jobs are not what they promised. You become property, merchandise." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Trafficking. It still happened, even with all the laws and enforcement, because there was always someone willing to exploit the vulnerable. And humans, still figuring out their place in the galaxy, made easy targets. "You reported this?" "To human authorities. They said they would investigate. That was 3 months ago. I have not heard anything since. And then Kretsch showed up, claiming he had a legal retrieval contract. But I know who hired him. The same people I escaped from. They want me silenced." More security officers arrived, including Quilix, who immediately began securing the unconscious attackers. I kept my attention on Maya. "You are going to have to make a full statement. Everything you know about this operation. Names, locations, whatever you can remember." "Will it matter? Will anyone actually do anything?" That was the question. Was it not? Would the system protect her? Or would bureaucracy and corruption let her slip through the cracks? "I will make sure it matters," I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. "You just took down a Verulian bounty hunter and 2 Graken mercenaries by yourself. I think you have earned someone taking your story seriously." She almost smiled at that. Almost. "I was a self-defense instructor back on Earth, before I left. I taught women how to protect themselves. Guess the training stuck." "Clearly." Medical teams arrived to assess the unconscious attackers. Kretsch was already starting to come around, groaning and twitching. Verulians recovered fast. I had Quilix double the restraints on him just to be safe. The Graken were still out cold, which was probably for the best. They tended to wake up angry. As we prepared to move Maya to a secure interview room, I noticed something that made me pause. Her hands were shaking. Not much, just a slight tremor. But it was there. The adrenaline was wearing off, and the reality of what had just happened was setting in. She had maintained her composure during the fight, kept herself controlled and focused, but now the cost of that control was showing. "Are you injured?" I asked. "No. Just give me a minute." I gave her the minute. Around us, station personnel worked to clear the area and calm the civilian witnesses. There would be reports, interviews, security reviews, all the usual aftermath of a violent incident. But for that moment, I let Maya Reeves have her minute to shake and breathe and process the fact that she had just fought for her life and won. When she looked up again, her eyes had regained some of that earlier calculation. "What happens now?" "Now you tell me everything. And then we figure out how to keep you alive long enough to testify against the people who did this." She nodded slowly. "They are not going to stop. You know that, right? Kretsch was just the first. They will send others." "Then we will deal with others," Quilix chirped nervously. "Thrace, Station Command wants a full briefing. Immediately. They are, how do humans say it, flipping out. Tell them I will be there in 10 minutes. And tell them we are going to need to upgrade our protection protocols. We have a witness who is now a target, and I am not letting her get grabbed on my watch." As we walked toward the security offices, Maya kept close to my side, her bag once again clutched in front of her. I noticed she was scanning every corridor, every alcove, cataloging potential threats and escape routes. Old habits from her time running, I supposed, or maybe just good survival instincts. "Can I ask you something?" she said after a moment. "Go ahead." "Why did you step in? You could have let Kretsch take me. Would have been simpler for you. Less paperwork." I considered the question. Why had I stepped in? Protocol, certainly. Duty. But there was something else, something I could not quite articulate. Maybe it was the way she had looked when Kretsch first approached her, frightened but defiant, refusing to make it easy for him. Maybe it was because I was tired of seeing vulnerable people get ground up by systems that should protect them. "Because it was the right thing to do," I finally said. "And because I have a feeling your story is going to expose something much bigger than one illegal retrieval attempt. If what you are saying is true, there is an entire trafficking operation targeting humans, exploiting the fact that your species is still learning how to navigate galactic society. That cannot stand. Not on my station." She studied my face for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, then I will tell you everything. Every name I remember, every location, every detail. But you need to understand something. These people, they have connections, resources. They operate across multiple sectors. Taking them down, it is going to be dangerous. For both of us. I have been doing this job for 17 cycles, Miss Reeves. I think I can handle dangerous." That almost smile appeared again. "You haven't seen what I've seen, but thank you for believing me. Most people do not." We reached the security offices, and I keyed in my access code. The door slid open to reveal our operations center, all monitors and communication stations, and the organized chaos of a busy station hub. Quilix skittered ahead to start processing the incident reports. I guided Maya toward one of the private interview rooms, a small but comfortable space with basic amenities. "Wait here. I need to brief my superiors. Then we will begin your formal statement. Help yourself to the water dispenser. Try to relax if you can." Relaxing is not really my strong suit anymore. Fair enough. I left her there, posted a guard outside the door, and went to face my superiors. Station Commander Velox was a Thurian, which meant he had tentacles instead of arms and about 12 different ways to express disapproval. He used all of them when I finished my briefing. You are telling me we now have a human witness claiming to have escaped from a trafficking ring, a Varulian bounty hunter facing assault charges, 2 unconscious Graken mercenaries, and the potential for this to explode into a major incident? Do I have that correct? Yes, Commander. That is accurate. One of his tentacles made a gesture I had learned meant extreme frustration. And you believe her story? I do. She took down 3 armed attackers using minimal force and obvious training. That is not the behavior of someone running a scam. That is someone who has learned to fight, because her life depends on it. Another tentacle, this one expressing resignation. Very well. We will provide protection while she gives her statement. But Thrace, if this blows up in our faces, if there are political ramifications or trade complications or any of the dozen other disasters that could come from accusing established entities of trafficking, the responsibility will be yours. Understood? Understood, Commander. Good. Now get back in there and get every detail. Everything. If we are going to make this stick, we need evidence that could survive scrutiny in a galactic court. And Thrace? Watch your back. If the people she is accusing are as connected as she claims, you have just made yourself a target too. I returned to the interview room where Maya waited. She had not touched the water. She sat in the same position I had left her, bag on her lap, eyes on the door. When I entered, she visibly relaxed, just a fraction. Ready to begin? I asked. Ready. I activated the recording system and began the formal interview protocols. Name, species designation, homeworld, current status, the basics. Then we moved into the details. Maya's story unfolded like a nightmare dressed in reasonable clothing. She had been recruited through a legitimate-looking employment agency on Earth, offered a position as a medical assistant on a trading vessel, good pay, travel opportunities, a chance to see the galaxy. She had jumped at it. Why would not she? It sounded perfect. The first month had been normal. She worked in the medical bay, treated minor injuries, learned about alien physiology. The crew seemed professional. The ship made regular stops at various stations. Everything was exactly as advertised. Then they made a stop at a station in an unregulated sector, and everything changed. They brought on new crew at that station, Maya continued, her voice steady despite the tension in her shoulders. Except they were not crew. They were cargo. 23 people, all human. All told the same lies I was told about employment opportunities. The ship's medical bay became a holding area. My job became keeping them sedated and compliant until delivery. I felt my mandibles tighten, a Zentari stress response. And when you refused? I did not refuse at first. I was terrified. They made it very clear what would happen if I caused problems. But I started documenting everything. Patient records, ship logs, communication frequencies. I hid data chips in my personal belongings. Then, at our next station stop, I waited until most of the crew was offloading other cargo, and I ran. Just grabbed my bag and ran. How long ago was this? 4 months. I have been moving from station to station ever since, trying to stay ahead of them, while waiting for someone, anyone, to actually investigate my reports. But human authorities are overwhelmed. We are still figuring out jurisdiction in space. And the people running this operation, they have lawyers, legitimate business fronts, connections throughout multiple systems. On paper, they look clean. I pulled up my datapad and began making notes. I need names, ship registrations, anything you can remember. She recited them from memory, no hesitation, no uncertainty. The ship was called the Meridian Hope. registered out of a human colony world called New Toronto. The captain's name was Victor Strand, human, former Earth military with a dishonorable discharge. The operation was funded through a shell corporation called Frontier Logistics Solutions, which had ties to at least 6 other companies across 4 sectors. The more she talked, the more I realized she was right. This was not some small-time operation. This was organized, well-funded, and protected by layers of legal insulation. The data chips you mentioned, do you still have them? Her hand moved to her bag, then stopped. Yes, but they are encrypted. I did not trust leaving them unprotected. If someone grabbed me, I did not want them to have easy access to the evidence. Can you decrypt them? With the right equipment, yes. It will take time. I stood up. Then we start now. Quilix. My partner appeared in the doorway, antennae twitching with nervous energy. Yes, Thrace? I need you to set up a secure workstation in our tech lab. Full encryption, isolated from the main network. Miss Reeves is going to decrypt some files for us, and I do not want any chance of them being accessed or intercepted. On it. While Quilix scurried off to prepare the workspace, I turned back to Maya. This is going to take time. Days, maybe longer. We need to keep you safe during that period. Station housing is not secure enough. Not for someone with professional hunters after them. You will stay in the security wing, restricted access area. Nobody gets near you without my clearance. Will that be enough? Honestly? I had no idea, but I was not about to tell her that. It will have to be. We moved to the tech lab, a cramped room filled with processing equipment and analysis tools. Maya set up at one of the terminals, plugging in her data chips and pulling up decryption software. I watched her work, noting the practiced efficiency of her movements. This was not her first time handling sensitive digital information. You said you were a self-defense instructor on Earth, I commented. That does not usually come with data security skills. My brother worked in cybersecurity. He taught me some things. Said it was important to know how to protect information in the digital age. Guess he was right. Her fingers moved across the interface, typing in complex command strings. Lines of encrypted code scrolled across the screen, gradually resolving into readable text. Medical records, ship manifests, communication logs, and photographs. Dozens of them, showing frightened people crammed into spaces never designed for human habitation. The evidence was damning, irrefutable. This was going to cause an explosion. How long have you been working on documenting this? I asked. Since the 2nd week after they changed my duties. I knew something was wrong, but I needed proof. Needed something concrete that could not be dismissed or explained away. So I started collecting everything. Hours passed. The decryption process was slow, methodical. Maya worked with intense focus, occasionally stopping to explain what she was uncovering. Each new file painted a darker picture. The Meridian Hope was just one vessel in a fleet. There were at least 4 other ships running similar operations, all moving human cargo through unregulated sectors. The total number of victims could be in the hundreds. Quilix brought us food at one point, some kind of nutrient paste that was universally digestible but universally flavorless. Maya ate mechanically, her attention never leaving the screen. I found myself impressed by her determination. She had been running for months, living in fear, but she had never given up on bringing her captors to justice. That took a special kind of courage. We were about halfway through the decryption when the alarms went off. Station-wide alert. Unauthorized access attempt on the security wing. Multiple intruders detected. I was on my feet instantly, weapon drawn. Quilix, lock down this room. Nobody gets in except me. Maya, keep working. We need those files. What is happening? They found you. Stay here. Do not open this door for anyone. I left the tech lab at a run, sealing it behind me with my personal authorization code. The corridors of the security wing were flashing red with emergency lighting. Through my comm, I could hear chaos, gunfire, screaming, the sounds of combat echoing through the station. How had they gotten in so fast? How had they breached our security? I reached the main security hub to find it under assault. 6 figures in tactical gear, species unknown behind sealed helmets, were systematically fighting their way through our defenses. They moved with military precision, covering each other, using advanced weapons that cut through our standard barriers like they were paper. My officers were falling back, taking defensive positions, returning fire with everything they had. But these intruders were professionals. This was not a smash-and-grab operation. This was a strike team. I dropped into cover behind a bulkhead and opened fire with my neural disruptor. One of the intruders went down, convulsing. The others immediately adjusted, focusing suppressive fire in my direction while 2 of them advanced. Disciplined, coordinated, dangerous. Commander Velox's voice crackled through the comm. All units, fall back to secondary positions. Do not let them reach the restricted areas. Too late. They were already pushing past our initial defenses, heading directly for the tech lab. They knew exactly where Maya was. Someone had given them intelligence. Someone on the inside. A traitor. We had a traitor in station security. The realization hit me like a physical blow, but there was no time to process it. I had to stop them from reaching Maya. I pushed forward, firing as I moved, trying to slow their advance. Other officers joined me, creating a wall of bodies between the intruders and their target. One of the attackers pulled out something that looked like a thermal charge. If they could not get through us, they were going to blast through the bulkheads. I aimed for his hand, fired, and the neural pulse caused him to drop the device. It clattered to the floor, inactive but menacing. Then the attackers changed tactics. Instead of pushing forward, they fell back, regrouping at the entrance to the security wing. One of them pulled out a communication device and spoke into it, voice distorted by their helmet's filters. I could not make out the words, but the meaning became clear a moment later. Explosions rocked the station, multiple breaches in the outer hull. Decompression alarms wailed. Blast doors slammed shut throughout the facility, sealing off compromised sections. The attackers had brought backup. This was not just a strike team. This was an invasion. Commander Velox's voice again, strained now. We have hostile ships docking at multiple access points. This is a coordinated assault. All security personnel, defend critical infrastructure. I grabbed Quilix by the shoulder. Get to the tech lab. Extract Maya and those files. Use the maintenance tunnels. Get her to the command deck where we can protect her. What about you? I am going to buy you time. Now go. Quilix hesitated only a second, then sprinted toward the tech lab. I turned my attention back to the attackers, who were using the chaos of the hull breaches to push forward again. There were more of them now, reinforcements pouring in from the docking points. At least a dozen, maybe more. We were outnumbered, outgunned, and losing ground fast. I fell back to a choke point, a narrow corridor that forced the attackers to approach in single file. It was a defensible position, at least temporarily. 3 other officers joined me, and together we created an overlapping field of fire that made advancement costly. 2 more intruders went down, but they kept coming, stepping over their fallen comrades without hesitation. These were not random mercenaries. These were soldiers, possibly even former military from one of the Galactic Defense Forces. The kind of people you hired when failure was not acceptable. My communicator chirped. Quilix's voice, frantic. Thrace! The tech lab was compromised. There was someone waiting inside, one of our own techs. He tried to grab Maya, but she disabled him. We have the files. We are moving to the command deck now. A traitor. I had been right, but there was no satisfaction in it. Only cold fury. Keep her safe, Quilix. I am on my way. I signaled to the other officers. Fighting retreat. Fall back to the command deck. Move! We pulled back in stages, covering each other, making the attackers pay for every meter of corridor they took. But they kept coming, relentless, professional, utterly committed to their objective. The command deck was the most secure location on the station, with reinforced bulkheads, independent life support, and multiple redundant defense systems. If we could get Maya there, we might be able to hold out until help arrived, assuming help was coming, assuming this attack had not cut off our communication arrays. I reached the command deck access point to find it already sealed. Commander Velox had locked it down. Through the transparent barrier, I could see Maya inside, along with Quilix and a dozen other personnel. She was still clutching her bag, but now her face showed something besides fear. It showed anger. Pure, focused rage at the people who had forced her into this situation. Velox's voice boomed through the intercom. "Thrace, get in here! We are about to seal the final barrier." I dove through the access point just as it began to close. Behind me, the attackers reached the barrier and began trying to cut through it with plasma torches. It would hold, but not forever. Maybe an hour, maybe less. Inside the command deck, organized chaos reigned. Personnel worked frantically to restore communications, coordinate what remained of our security forces, and plot escape routes if the situation deteriorated further. Maya stood near a data terminal, uploading her decrypted files to the station's main computer, ensuring they would survive even if she did not. I approached her, breathing hard from the running firefight. "Are you injured?" "No. Shaken, but functional. The files are almost uploaded. Once they are in the system, they will automatically transmit to multiple law enforcement agencies. Even if this station falls, the evidence survives." Smart, practical. This woman thought 3 steps ahead, always planning for the worst-case scenario. Commander Velox turned from his tactical display, several tentacles gesturing in agitation. "Thrace, we have a serious problem. The attackers have taken control of 3 docking rings. They are bringing in more troops and heavy equipment. Our security forces are scattered and cannot mount an effective counterattack. We are contained, not defended." "What about reinforcements? Have we gotten a distress signal out?" "Yes, but the nearest patrol ship is 2 hours away. We have maybe 1 hour before they breach the command deck. The mathematics are not favorable." Maya finished uploading her files and turned to face us. "Then we need to change the mathematics. What do they want? Me, right? Just me?" I saw where she was going and immediately shook my head. "Absolutely not. We are not using you as bait." Not bait. Leverage. They think I am trapped here, helpless. What if I was not? What if I went to them? That is suicide. Only if I go alone. But what if I had backup? What if we turn this into an opportunity to identify who is running this operation? They will not send underlings for something this important. They will send someone with authority, someone who can make decisions. If we can capture that person, interrogate them, we can roll up the entire network. Commander Velox's tentacles stilled, a sign he was considering the proposal. It is an insane risk. Everything about this situation is insane, Maya countered. But sitting here waiting to be overrun is not a plan. It is just slow defeat. At least this way we fight back. We take the initiative. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something that reminded me why I had gone into security work in the first place. She was not just trying to survive anymore. She was trying to win, to make sure that what happened to her could not happen to anyone else. If we do this, I said slowly. We do it smart. Full tactical support, body armor, tracking devices, and the moment things go wrong, we extract you. No heroic sacrifices. Agreed? Agreed. Velox sighed, a sound like air escaping through multiple valves. Very well, but Thrace, you are personally responsible for her safety. If this goes sideways, if we lose her or those files, the consequences will be severe. Understood, Commander. We had 40 minutes to prepare. Maya was fitted with lightweight body armor designed for human physiology, along with a subcutaneous tracking beacon that would let us follow her anywhere on the station. She kept her stun device, now fully charged. I assembled a strike team of 5 officers, all veterans, all volunteers who understood the risks. The plan was simple, which usually meant it was dangerously stupid. Maya would present herself at the barrier, offering to surrender in exchange for the attackers withdrawing and ceasing hostilities. They would take her, believing they had won. We would track her location, identify the leadership, and then strike with overwhelming force before they could escape the station. Simple, stupid, and our best chance. Maya stood at the barrier, waiting for it to open. I stood beside her, weapon ready. You do not have to do this. We can find another way. There is no other way. You know that. This is the only move that gives us a chance. She looked at me, and in that moment, I saw the weight of everything she had endured. The fear, the running, the constant vigilance, and beneath it all, an unbreakable core of determination. Besides, I am tired of running. Time to make them run. The barrier opened. Maya stepped through, hands raised, bag hanging from one shoulder. The attackers immediately surrounded her, weapons trained, postures aggressive. One of them, larger than the others, stepped forward and removed his helmet. Human. Of course he was human. Who better to hunt humans than one of their own? He had a scarred face, cold eyes, and the kind of smile that promised pain. Maya Reeves, you have been quite troublesome. That ends now. I want guarantees. Safe passage off this station. No harm to the station personnel. You get me? Everyone else walks away. The scarred human laughed. You are not in a position to negotiate. You are coming with us. What happens to everyone else depends entirely on how cooperative you are. They grabbed her, bound her hands, and began moving her through the compromised sections of the station. Through our tracking system, I watched their progress. They were heading toward one of the captured docking rings where a ship waited. Good. That meant they were planning to leave quickly. We could intercept them before they reached their vessel. I led my strike team through the maintenance tunnels, moving parallel to Maya's path. Quilix coordinated our movements from the command deck, feeding us real-time updates on enemy positions. The attackers had left guards at key intersections, but they were focused on external threats, not expecting an assault from within, their own secured territory. We took down the first guard silently, using close combat techniques. The second fell to a well-placed neural disruptor shot. By the time we reached the docking ring level, we had eliminated 6 hostiles without raising an alarm. Through a viewport, I could see Maya being escorted onto a sleek combat transport. The scarred human was with her, along with 2 others. One was a Yantari merchant captain I recognized from intelligence briefings. The other was human, female, expensively dressed, carrying herself with absolute authority. That was the target, the person in charge. I keyed my comm to the team. We go in 30 seconds. Non-lethal force where possible, but protect the witness at all costs. Move on my mark. 29. 28. I watched Maya being pushed into the ship. 25. The door began to close. 20. We had to strike before they launched. 15. I checked my weapon. 10. My team stacked up behind me. 5. I took a breath. 3, 2, 1. Mark! We breached the docking ring entrance, moving fast and low. The guards outside the ship never had a chance. We cut through them like a blade through water, our training and coordination overwhelming their surprised response. I led the charge into the ship itself, firing as I went, stunning anyone who raised a weapon. The scarred human appeared at the end of the corridor, weapon drawn. He fired, his shot burning past my head close enough that I felt the heat. I returned fire, my neural disruptor catching him square in the chest. He went down hard. Maya was in the main hold, still bound, but she had somehow worked one hand free. As we burst in, she drove her elbow into the face of the guard beside her, then swept his legs. The guard fell, and Maya grabbed his dropped weapon, a projectile pistol that looked massive in her small hands. The expensively dressed woman pulled her own weapon, aiming at Maya. "You stupid little fool! You should have stayed disappeared." I did not give her the chance to fire. My shot took her in the shoulder, spinning her around and sending her weapon clattering across the deck. My team secured her immediately, along with the Yentari captain, who was trying to edge toward the pilot's cabin. It was over in less than 2 minutes. Maya stood there, still holding the guard's weapon, breathing hard, eyes wild. Slowly, she lowered the gun and let it drop to the deck. "Did we get them? Is it over?" "We got them. The leadership, the evidence, everything. It is over." She nodded once, then her legs gave out. I caught her before she hit the deck, lowering her gently to a sitting position. Now that the immediate danger had passed, the adrenaline was crashing, and all the fear and exhaustion she had been holding back flooded through her system. She started shaking, not violently, just a steady tremor that spoke of too much stress carried for too long. "You did good," I told her. "You did incredibly good. You survived. You fought. You won." "I was so scared," she whispered. "The whole time. Every second. I thought I was going to die. But you did not. You are here. You are safe. And because of you, we are going to shut down an entire trafficking network. You saved lives today, Maya Reeves, maybe hundreds of them." Over the next several hours, station security reasserted control. The remaining attackers either surrendered or were subdued. Medical teams treated the wounded, engineering crews began repairs on the damaged sections, and in a secure holding facility, the captured leaders of the trafficking operation began to understand just how thoroughly their operation had collapsed. The expensively dressed woman was named Elara Voss, a human with connections to multiple criminal enterprises across 5 sectors. The Yentari captain, Glix, had a ship registered in his name that matched one of the vessels Maya had documented. The scarred human, Victor Strand himself, was the captain of the Meridian Hope. We had them all. Maya's files, combined with testimony from the captured traffickers, would provide enough evidence to dismantle the entire network. Human authorities, galactic law enforcement, even some of the major trading guilds were already coordinating a massive operation to shut down every front company, arrest every conspirator, and rescue every victim still in captivity. It would take time, months, probably years, but it was happening. 3 days after the attack, I found Maya in one of the station's observation lounges, staring out at the stars. She looked different somehow. Still tired, still carrying the weight of everything she had experienced, but standing straighter, breathing easier. "They told me I can leave tomorrow," she said without turning around. "Go wherever I want. Start over. Actual witness protection this time, with real resources behind it." "Where will you go?" "Home, maybe. Earth. See my family. Or maybe somewhere new. There is a human colony on the rim that is looking for medical personnel. They probably need self-defense instructors, too." She turned to look at me. "What about you? Are you going to get in trouble for all of this?" Probably. Commander Velox has been making vague, threatening gestures all day, but the results speak for themselves. We broke up a major trafficking ring, captured dozens of criminals, and exposed corruption in multiple systems. That counts for something. Will I see you again? I considered the question. Our species rarely crossed paths, our duties usually keeping us in different sectors of the galaxy. But the universe was strange. It had brought us together once. Perhaps it would again. Maybe. If you ever pass through Kelvar Station, look me up. I will buy you a drink. Something non-toxic for human biology. She smiled. A real smile this time. Not the almost smile I had seen before. I would like that. We stood there for a while. Two beings from different worlds, different species, who had somehow found themselves fighting the same battle. She had taught me something important, though I suspected she did not realize it. Courage was not the absence of fear. It was moving forward despite the fear. Fighting even when you were terrified, refusing to give up even when the entire galaxy seemed arrayed against you. Humans were still new to the galactic community, still learning the rules, still finding their place among the stars. But if Maya Reeves was any indication of what humanity could become, I thought they were going to be just fine. More than fine. They were going to be formidable. As I left the observation lounge, I pulled up my data pad and began drafting a recommendation. Maya had mentioned that the Rim colony needed people. They also needed security, and I had just submitted my application for transfer. 17 cycles on Kelvar Station was enough. Time for something new. Time to go somewhere I could make a real difference. And if that somewhere happened to be where a certain self-defense instructor who fought like a cornered predator was heading, well, that was just a fortunate coincidence. The galaxy was full of predators, but it was also full of people like Maya Reeves, who refused to be prey, who turned fear into fuel and used it to fight back against the darkness. Those were the people worth protecting, worth fighting alongside. I sent the transfer request and smiled to myself. The universe was about to get interesting. Very interesting indeed.